Hello, good evening. This is your host Preeti Chaudhary, and today's session is aptly after mental wellness and holistic health. What a way to begin the holiday, end the year, and look with hope, dreams, and aspirations towards the new year. So, once again, namaste, good evening, and very warmly I welcome you to this edition of LinkedIn Local India Live with me, your host Preeti Chaudhary. The session topic is mental wellness and holistic health, and who other than our dear friend Dr. Marcus Ranney to talk us through the finer nuances of self care and everything else that is associated with taking good care of ourselves during trying times. To begin the conversation, let me welcome Dr. Marcus Ranney. Good
Hello,
evening,
hello.
how are you today?
I'm very good and very happy to be back with you. Thank you so much for having me again on LinkedIn Local India.
Absolutely fantastic and such an important topic, Marcus. As I was saying to the attendees, here we are at the end of 2020, which has been a roller coaster of a ride. And as we step into the new year in about 7 days' time, it is all about hopes, dreams, and aspirations looking into the new year. But this interim 7 days is a time wherein we can actually sit back, relax over the holidays, and think about ourselves, our
Yeah.
own care, our self care. The mental wellness and holistic health of ourselves are near and dear ones. And here we are speaking to you on this very important topic. So let me welcome you once again and thank you so much for all your expert tips and tricks, which are going to be here for the next 30-40 minutes or so. With your permission, Marcus, it is over to you. Let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am going to share my screen.
Mhm.
I hope.
Yep,
All
right
right,
here.
great. So that is the theme, mental well-being and holistic health over the holidays and into 2021. What I thought I'll do is I thought I'd share with all of our viewers some of my favorite habit hack. I'm going to define what a habit hack is, of course, and then talk a little bit about some of my favorite habit hacks that we can do specifically during this holiday period of time to be mindful about what's going on around us so that we can start 2021 in a stronger footing as we possibly can. Now, of course, for people who've joined into our sessions before, Preeti, they would know that my journey through life has been one which I've been on this constant pursuit to try and understand how we can achieve the most out of this biological machine that we have. How can we can achieve our human edge? And that sort of zigzag career has taken me from sick care, working with patients at their bedside, around the world in some of the most extreme environments around the world, and some elite performing individuals in the Air Force and at NASA, etc. And now, of course, focused on people in their corporate lives, in their professional lives, to help them all achieve their own habit hacks. And I try and do what I practice, what I preach. I try and build all of this into my own life as well, so that I can make sure I'm getting the most out of my body and brain as well. And fundamental to everything we're going to be talking about is the singular neuron which exists within our brain. Our brain, which sits inside of the skull, this black box, weighs around 1.4 kilogram. It's very unassuming. I've held a human brain, and it's a very unassuming object and organ. But when you delve deep inside of it, you just are awed in terms of the chemistry and the neurophysiology and neuroanatomy. This 1.5 kilogram structure has 87 trillion, that's with a T, neurons, individual nerve cells, and each of our nerve cells is connected with another 7 to 10,000 other neurons. So for the mathematicians, you would quickly be able to do that calculation and understand that there are literally trillions and quadrillions of neural connections inside of our brains. And it's these connections which help different parts of the brain to talk to one another. And the reason why this talking is so important is because it's those talking and those messages that get sent which form the circuits inside of the wires in our brain. It's those circuits which ultimately dictate our thoughts, our actions, drives our habits, creates our personality, and is part of our behavior as well. And so physically being in a position to change any of those habits and behaviors begins with this understanding that it lies at a neuronal level, each of these individual 87 trillion neurons, and we need to figure out how to hack our brains to make different parts of them wire and then fire together. And so when it comes to the formation of a habit, Preeti, I have 3 very simple rules, okay? And the reason I have these rules is because people often come to me and they say, Doc, I want to run a marathon. Or Doc, I want to lose 20 kilos. I want to get a 6-pack. Or I want to play an instrument, etc. And I need to begin to help them understand that those are goals. Those are not habits, and those by far are not actions. So if I want to run a marathon, if that's my goal for 2021, my habit has to be, my behavior has to be, I need to be a runner, right? I need to be a runner as a behavior in order for me to reach my goal to run a marathon. My habits have to be, I need to run every day, I need to work on my core, I need to have exercises built into 5-6 days a week, etc., etc. And those habits sit on actions. And those actions are the simple, what I call my habit hacks, are the simple, small things that you can do every day to get you there. So owning a pair of running shoes is a habit hack, right? Having a device to clock how many steps you do or how many kilometers you run, that's a habit hack. Setting your alarm to wake you up at 6 a.m. so that you can run is a habit hack. Pre-deciding your running route for the next morning with a friend is a habit hack. These are all small things that you can't fail at if you choose to do so. But don't confuse these habit hacks with the habit. These are just small actions to get you there. So rule number 1 is start small, start today, right? Don't focus on the goal, focus on the action, because you're much more inclined to be successful if you focus on the action. Next to that, of course, is starting today. People tell me, and it's particularly this time of year, right? Everyone says, okay, Doc, I'm going to do this January 1st. I'm going to start running. It's going to be my new behavior. It's going to be my new resolution for 2021. I tell you in writing, 67% of you will not even start that journey. That's just the way our human brains are wired. The best way of forming a new behavior is to start it today. However small it may be, is to start it today, the smallest actions. That's rule number 1. Start small, start today. So small are my rules that you can even hashtag them, and please do hashtag them on LinkedIn. Tag Preeti, tag LinkedIn Live Local India, and let me know what your favorite hashtags and rules are. So rule number 1, start small, start today. Rule number 2, hashtag stack them up. Imagine putting a 1 kilogram weight on a paper cup. It would buckle under the weight. Now, imagine you stack 10 paper cups, one on top of the other, so that they form this really rigid tower stacked into each other. And now you put a 1 kilogram weight on top. It'll resist. The strength is there within that tower to resist the crushing force of that 1 kilogram weight. And it's the same when it comes to habits. The best way of forming a new habit is to link it to an existing one. So stacking up habits is really, really powerful and important. And the last one, hashtag celebrate the win. Dopamine, neurotransmitter inside of our brain, responsible for that feeling happy. You know, when you eat a bar of chocolate, or you do something naughty, or you spend time playing with your child, or you meet a friend after a long period of time and you have coffee with them. That's that feeling of pleasure that you have inside of you. And that is driven by dopamine. And the role of dopamine, the reason why it's so important is it creates pleasure. It also reinforces the pathway which is linked with that particular action. So if you're trying to form a new habit, such as running, then every time you do running in a good way, which should be every single time, I want you to celebrate the win. Let the dopamine surge, flood your brains, so that running neurons become part of your reinforced pathways. And you can do this by journaling. You can do it by posting on social media, posting on LinkedIn. You can do it by having an accountability partner that you talk and share with, whatever it may be. But have a series of ways of celebrating your wins. So these are my 3 simple steps when it comes to forming a new habit, all hashtagable. Start small, start today, stack them up and celebrate the win. Okay, now as we get into the holiday season, it's really important for us to differentiate the expectation versus the reality. This is the central tenet of all the unhappiness in the world, the difference between expectation versus reality. And we already know, I live in Bombay. Yesterday, day before, the CM announced that there's going to be a curfew every evening now between now and the 5th of January. That means 11 p.m. So Christmas Day, we're going to be at home. Christmas night, we're going to be at home. New Year's Eve, we're going to be celebrating at home, etc. And away from friends and family because we've got a curfew now. So that's really important, is to get over the expectation versus reality mismatch and recalibrate our expectations in a way that they are then met. And we don't have that unhappiness which is associated with the difference between the two. Now, a couple of self-care priorities which are very important for all of us as we get into the holiday season, because we tend to overeat and we tend to overindulge in things which are upsetting to the system. We tend to have too many sugary things. Sugar raises inflammation, it suppresses the immune system, and it opens us up to infections and other types of complaints. So let's make sure we're eating well. Macronutrients, divide your plate into 4. One half of your plate full of colorful fruit and vegetables. Color is nature's way of saying something is really good for you. So raw, fresh, colorful fruit and veg. 1/4 of your plate protein, and only 1/4 carbohydrate. Don't fill your plate with rice. Don't have 4 chapatis, rotis, kulchas, etc., particularly in the winter months. And I've just come back from Rajasthan and I know how hard that is. Be disciplined with the macronutrients, the calories that you're putting into your body, and also ensure that you're getting the right micronutrients. And here on this slide, and you can click a photograph of this, vitamin C, vitamin B, vitamin D, right? 3 vitamins which are really important to our immunity and our resilience and our mood. Then we have omega-3, omega-6, and then we have zinc and magnesium, trace metals and minerals. These are the 6 things that you need to make sure that you're getting every day. So I've spoken of macronutrients and I've spoken of micronutrients. And if you can't get it from your food, and I've listed all kinds of food items here, then you can also take some natural supplements to help you with this. Okay, next habit hack is the power of breathing. Breathing is such a powerful physiological tool that we have under our control to reduce the levels of stress and anxiety. And here's just one simple study where I've got a picture. This is an MRI of someone before and after deep breathing meditation. And you can see how the colors, which represent the amount of activity inside of the different parts of the brain, the frontal, parietal, and occipital lobe, you can see how the colors have gone from the bright whites, which are high intensity, so white, yellow, red, and pink, to the dark blues and blacks, which are low intensity. And what you're doing through the action of deep breathing, and I'm going to show you a technique now, is you're moving from gamma waves, which are high amplitude, tight, high frequency waves, to alpha waves, which are more cyclical and steady in nature. Very powerful to get into a state of flow and productivity. And the technique I use here is box breathing. You breathe in for 4 counts. So you count to 4 in your head, breathing in. You hold for 4 counts. You breathe out for 4 counts, and then you repeat that cycle 4 times. And this is a very powerful way. It activates the vagus nerve. People who are familiar with the neurophysiology, it activates the vagus nerve. It drives the parasympathetic system, suppressing the fight or flight mechanism in your body. And it helps you get into a much more relaxed state and a state of flow as well. The next thing is embracing nature. Use this time to get out there and take a walk in a park, sit by the seaside, watch a sunset with your partner or spouse, play with your kids in the open air. Anything that you can do to spend time in nature, because nature is intensely healing. For those of you who follow me on LinkedIn, my handle is Dr.Marcus Ranney, R-A-N-N-E-Y. You can see today I actually posted a tremendously beautiful sunset that I experienced yesterday in Udaipur. I was just near the Lake Palace, and there was an incredible sunset as the sun came down, and we clicked this photograph, and it just reminded us that we're constantly looking out for the silver moments in life, those little moments of joy amongst all the chaos, uncertainty, and challenges. Well, there are so many golden moments in life as well, and we need to hold on to those, because that then reminds us about the positive aspects in our world. And there's no greater source of inspiration, of wonder and awe than nature in our lives. Here are some common feelings that we're all probably going to be feeling over the next 7 to 10 days. And it's important for us, therefore, to acknowledge our feelings, to reach out to people if we are feeling vulnerable or overawed, and reach out to people for help, to be realistic, right? To set that expectation versus reality for ourselves so that we don't achieve the mismatch, to set aside our differences. There's too much pain in the world. There's too much suffering. There's enough negativity that we need to overcome those and just be kind to one another, compassion and empathy as well. Let's stick to a budget, right? It's not been a financially successful year for many people. A lot of us have gone through the hardships of the economic consequences of the lockdown, supply chain disruptions, business changes, of course, furloughs and redundancies at work, etc. So let's make sure that we're sticking to our budget, because financial well-being is very important to our overall holistic state of happiness and well-being as well. Let's ensure we plan ahead, right? As I shared with you, the curfew announcement that just came in day before yesterday. There may be other types of announcements that get made, right? Let's be realistic. The UK made the announcement 36 hours ago about the new strain. We don't know how that's going to play out over the rest of the world. Of course, already Europe has shut its borders. Already we are seeing travel restrictions come into parts of the US and North America, etc. So let's make sure that we're planning ahead and we're just embracing the moments that we have ability. Let's learn to say no. There's no harm in saying no. It's important from a self-care perspective, right? Remember the mantra I shared with all of you last time we got together? Self-love and self-care is not selfish. Well, learning to say no and forgiving ourselves is part of that as well. Let's not abandon the healthy habits that we have. Let's take a breather, as I showed the power of breathing, and let's, as I said, seek out help when we need to. So I'm going to share with you 9 little hacks that can get you through each day, hopefully in a state of being optimal and being powerful and productive as well. Let's start our days nice on a good note. Warm water and lemon and honey. Water, why? 1% dehydration is associated with a 12% drop in productivity and performance. Those 7 to 8 hours that you're sleeping in the night, particularly if you've got a heater in the room in the cold parts of India, North India, etc., you're drying yourself out. So start your day by rehydrating, refreshing yourself, and filling the cells inside of you, so before you get into anything else. Number 2, build recovery time into your day. Spend as little as 30 seconds to 60 seconds every day. That little technique I shared with you, box breathing, that only takes about 30 to 40 seconds to do. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and repeat 4 times. Do that every single day to take control of your breathing and reduce the amount of stress and anxiety that you may have inside of you. Help other people. That's been one of my biggest learnings from 2020. All the people that have come forward to help us, whether it's been the frontline workers and healthcare professionals that I've been working with in slums across the city, in hospitals. We've had the delivery people, we've had our essential workers, all of them going out. So let's find ways of helping people who are not in as much of a fortunate position as we are this Christmas time, this New Year time. And we find that by giving, by being go-givers in life is much better than being a go-getter. And we actually get a lot of benefit from that in terms of endorphins and dopamine and other neurotransmitters which make us feel happy as well. Habit hack number 4 is sip some herbal tea around the tree. So lots of benefits from green tea, antioxidants, reduces stress, reduces inflammation, helps us sleep better. So I don't mean caffeinated versions. I mean actual detoxifying green tea or flavored teas, etc. And then you can read a book or just create a little ritual around that, especially before bedtime, and see how much you can enjoy that. Digital detox. This is a fantastic opportunity for all of us to get away from screen time as much as we can. Our whole year has been connected to our laptops and our devices. And this is a fantastic opportunity for us to take a few days and just detoxify and spend time with the human beings at home. Pick up a book that you wanted to read, do something interesting, go for a walk, enjoy the winter weather, do something nice, but stay away from your digital devices. Keep a jar of memories. right? We instinctively are very good at remembering the bad things in our life, right? That's why we ruminate. That's why we worry. That's where anxiety and stress comes from. How about we think about the positive things? And one of the most powerful ways of doing that is keeping a memory jar. If you've got young kids, this is a great habit to teach them. You can take an old glass jar, a jam jar, or a biscuit tin and decorate it with them. And then every day ask them to write one thing that they really enjoyed. And you do the same, by the way. You do the same, right? Was it the sunset you enjoyed? Was it your partner bringing you a warm cup of tea or coffee in the middle of a session? Was it a team member addressing a client need, very unexpected and therefore helping you? Whatever that is, write it down, keep that jar of memories, and then at the end of the week, at the end of the 7 to 10 days, open it up, put it out on the table, and just look back at all the great memories and reinforce the positive things that we've experienced in our lives as well. Number 7, get a workout buddy. The easiest way of working out is to have an accountability partner. That might be your spouse at home. It might be your neighbor across the road on your landing. It could be someone else in your building, or it could be a friend that lives nearby. You could do it in person. You could do it on Zoom. You could do it on an online class, whatever it is. Have an accountability, but make sure you're getting some movement every day. Just because we're not working now for the next few days doesn't mean we shouldn't be moving. We should make sure we get at least 8,000 to 10,000 steps every day, get those endorphins, get that dopamine, and enhance the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, so that your brain cells are as connected and as wired as they should be. Habit hack number 8 is linked to the last one. It's about gratitude, and setting up a moment of gratitude in the morning is a very powerful way of starting your day on a positive note. And the last one is in your diary. Every day, I want you to put a small 10 to 15 minute slot that you are going to book yourself in for self-care. And when you get to that slot, think about what is it that you want to do today, which is your self-care moment. Is it going for that walk? Is it having that green tea? Is it journaling? Is it looking at your expenses and figuring out your financial well-being for 2021? Whatever it is, pre-book it, because that gives you the discipline to actually do it when you get there. That's all that I wanted to share in terms of my habit hacks. I'm going to invite Preeti back for a Q&A session. This is something which is a great stocking filler, and it's something we're going to be talking a lot about next time Preeti and I connect in a couple of weeks' time. It's my new book, At the Human Edge, looking at the fundamental aspects of human physiology, how we can push it to the extreme. So the trips that I've done around the world, understanding biology and how we can get the most out of our body. And the QR code is here, which will take you directly to the introductory chapter. And if you enjoy that, I welcome you all to become a reader and order the book as well. So thank you very much. I am now going to stop my screen share. There we are. And Preeti's back.
Right. Thank you. And a quick reminder, here for all the audience on your book as well. Please mark your calendar for Wednesday, January 6th, 7 p.m. IST. We will be back with Marcus for an author spotlight, and that day we will not be talking about anything else apart from that book, his learnings and readings from it, and what is it that makes our body so unique and so wonderful. Having said that, we are back to the topic today. Marcus, I'm sure audience will have their own questions, but to me, something very fundamental, as someone maybe who's not feeling down in the doldrums, but who is also part of community society, what can I, as a friend, family, do to make myself be aware of vigilant for signs of stress, of depression, of things not being right in my immediate friends and family? What are those signs to look for, Marcus?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I have a very simple framework that I think about when I do this, and that's looking at our physical health, our mental health, and our emotional health. Right. So think of your body as a triad: physical, mental, and emotional. And any deviation away from baseline on any of those 3 parameters, and I'll give you some examples of that as well, is an indication that something isn't quite right. So when it comes to our physical health, some of the early signs and changes we see in our sleep, in our eating, in our weight, and in our energy levels, right? So if you are noticing, either your mood, either your energy is up or down, your sleep is up or down, you're eating too much, eating too little, your weight is going up or down. These are common first signs to look for in yourself and other people. Physical appearance is also something important. So your neighbor, for example, suddenly you may notice that she may not be looking after herself physically as much in terms of her hair, her makeup, her dress. A male colleague or male worker may not be shaving as often or may just appear disheveled. Again, these are early signs that can show. So that's the physical lens. Mental, that when that comes down to focus, concentration, efficacy, productivity, etc. So maybe a colleague of yours is not being as productive with the workload. Maybe the quality of their work has diminished. Maybe their acuity in terms of their listening skills has gotten worse in client calls, client interactions, etc. So that deviation is an early flag for you. And then lastly, emotions. And particularly when it comes to our ability to handle our emotions. So are we stable, or are you seeing lots of spikes up or down? And subtle cues might be someone who's more aggressive, they're shouting more often, their pitch, their tone of voice is more aggressive, they're using more explicitives and swear words. So this simple framework, physical, more emotional, and mental, and any deviation from baseline up or down, is a very useful framework for us to all consider and be vigilant of.
Right, that's absolutely practical and spot on. And could you please also help us understand what could be a few triggers? Because obviously these things are triggered by sort of certain symptoms and certain sort of surroundings and a noise here, a sound there, something, somebody saying something, maybe deep set fears and phobias. Anything scientific on those lines, Doc?
Actually, it's a multi-dimensional aspect, right? Because what will happen is people have got these deep-rooted anxieties, which right now, and I've been doing this poll since Janta curfew in March, and it's consistently shown that the three commonest causes of stress in our lives right now. Number one is the uncertainty of work, which is not changing anytime soon, unfortunately. Number two is our physical and our mental health. And number three is our relationships and our connections with other people. So these deep-rooted uncertainties and anxieties will be there in a lot of people. And then you layer that up, and quite often it's a straw that breaks the camel's back. It could manifest itself from someone with a noisy neighbor having a late night sort of gathering. For other people, it might be a traffic light or someone cutting them on the road. And so the trigger could be anything, right? It's important to, if you're close to that individual, and if you have the opportunity to spend time talking to them, if they allow you, and if you can create that safe environment, is to try and work with them to understand what is the root cause, because otherwise it's plaster over the cracks, right? It's taking a crocin for a headache without understanding why you've got the headache. And so that's really important. So creating that safe environment, having a conversation where you're actively listening, understanding where to draw the line before seeking professional help, and then trying to address the root cause rather than just the day-to-day triggers that might be causing these things.
Thank you for that, Marcus. And another thing is you've been having a lot of conversation with the employers for the last 9 months or so. When all of us have been locked in, things have professional, personal lives have gone topsy-turvy. Borders are sort of blurring in. Everything is meshing into one into the other. What are these conversations? What are the kind of concerns employees have been having at work? And what are some of those fantastic things in your view you have seen employers take on board to bring down these anxieties and these sort of depressions that are just sort of about to start off in employees all around? Your take, please.
Yeah, I've had a unique vantage point, and I've been in this industry now for a long time, to see how the evolution has occurred. And prior to COVID, conversations around our well-being, our mental health, our physical health were nice to have areas. What we've all come to the realization for practically every leader that I've had the opportunity to work with, and I've probably done around 300 sessions in the last 8 or 9 months alone with companies across the world, is that the competitive advantage of well-being is very clear. It is no longer a soft skill, it is now a hard skill that we need to facilitate an environment for our human capital talent to be in their best possible position. And critical to that aspect is their well-being, both their mental and their emotional and their physical side. So lots of organizations and probably people dialing in as well would have their host employers which have been provided trainings or programs, maybe even, had invited me into one of those sessions as well. So we've seen a lot of that happen as well. There's a lot of amazing content which is now available on lots of platforms. I know LinkedIn is doing a lot on the content space. Coursera and other types of MOOC courses have made lots of programs freely available for people. So there's definitely a lot going on right now, and I think this is going to be a very interesting time, because what we've all learned is that this is not going away anytime soon, right? A lot of people had thought that beyond Christmas, as we enter into spring, that we were going to go back to the year before 2020. But the news that has come out of the UK from Prime Minister Boris Johnson's announcement 36 hours ago have shown that there are many, many uncertainties which are still to come. And so we are each now creating those long-term sustainable plans to facilitate our workforce working from home or working from anywhere rather, and now having to design what I call shared experiences on top of that. So where we can leverage the digital transformation journey that has occurred, but catalyze that or augment that rather through these boutique, small, offline gatherings, bringing different people together so that we still remember who it is to be a human being and have those physical connects and cultures of work, etc.
Thank you, Doc M, for that. And another thing which is very prevalent in our Indian society, or rather, it's a whole Asian thing. The stigma attached with mental wellness and the other bits of health. So, as a medical practitioner, what are your views on the stigma part of it, and why do you think a conversation and a dialogue is more important rather than brushing things under the carpet? Because these things are not being said enough, and I think via this platform today, as a medical practitioner, may I please invite you to, call a spade and let us know your thoughts on this whole thing. Over to you.
No, thank you. This is really important, and I was actually very humbled and gratified to receive this recognition from the Scoop News Media day before yesterday as one of the top advocates and influencers in the mental health space in India. And recently, for the viewers who've been following, I've been working as an advocate with Times on this campaign called Act Now, which is where we've been producing content to help people overcome their mental health challenges. And central to this is stigma. And the way I look at this is actually, frankly, mental well-being requires a rebrand. When I say the words mental health and mental health to you, Preeti, what is the first image that comes into your mind?
A negative image, really. When you call it a mental sort of a health, it's like something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
I don't know for whatever reason, Marcus, but a negative connotation sort of springs up into my mind.
Absolutely.
Am I wrong?
No. Be mindful about the use of your hands, right? You initially did this, and typically what happens, it's the image that we have is someone with their head in their hands, dark colors, gloominess around us. If I said to you physical health, what is the image that comes into your mind?
Oh, somebody that's really bulging up their muscles, going to the gym, and being mindful about their health, doing the right things, and making the body. That's what happens.
Absolutely. And now again, be mindful about your body language. You immediately started to do this sign of strength. You were much more open. Your tone was much lighter. Your volume was much louder. So mental health has to get a rebrand. Why is it that physical health I'm going to call. Yeah. Sorry, my kids have just come in. Why is it that
it's perfectly fine.
Physical health is associated with energy, vibrancy, get up and go, but mental health is associated with negatively down and depression, right? So that's what we need to do. And it's the physical construct of our reality is based upon the stories that we tell ourselves. So if we can change the story, if we can change the narrative, we will change how people perceive these particular aspects, because it's a spectrum and all of us, one of us is impacted by this in some way or the other. So that's what I'm fundamentally trying to focus my energies on it? Can we rebrand mental health as being something positive? And the minute we do that, it changes and stigma no longer becomes an issue because we're just talking about it in a very different sense and form.
Thank you for that, Doc. And I think that is something which has been at the back of my mind because today's session also, instead of calling it mental health and holistic health, I've gone for a more sort of a positive word, mental wellness and holistic health. Because for me, if I use the word mental health, it conjures up a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Whereas when I use mental wellness, it immediately opens up the horizons for me. So I think personally it is also maybe substitution of few words here and there that might sort of help to change the narrative. But you are right. The whole idea is to change the construct, change the way this whole spectrum is sort of looked at. So absolutely spot on. And that brings me to something else which has been going on in my mind for a while, Doc. Why are the holidays most prone and susceptible to being down in the dumps, feeling gloomy? Whereas it is a time when people come out for celebration, it's all a time of joy, families, friends, gatherings, food, fun, and all of that. But why is it that on the other side, in a 180-degree turn, they are also the most loneliest times for quite a few in this world? Can you please help me understand that?
I think it's a great enigma, and I'm not going to pretend to be a historian or an anthropologist, but my own experiences has been that we are living in the most connected age of human beings, delivered via technology. But even in all of that digital connectiveness, we still have loneliness and isolation and depression and mental disease as being so high that we haven't seen before. So I think for a lot of people, this is also the time where they think about, or the lens, the artificially curated lens that social media creates in this world around us, reinforces some of those insecurities. And that we imagine that everyone else out there is having an amazing time with their family and lovely meals and having a party or traveling to Goa or Maldives or whatever it is that is the current trend, and we are alone at home still working, etc. But let's remember that what people are sharing and posting is just an artificial curation, right? That's not the real world that they are living in. And everyone has joys, everyone has pains, and our challenges are therefore the same. And so, I think that's part of it. I think that whole construct that comes through social media contributes to it. But even before that, of course, depression and loneliness was there. And I think it's for those who are reminded that they have a lot, but there is also so much that they're missing. And then lastly, I would say that, human physiology is also built around the external environment. And that's obviously central to my book as well. And weather, climate, the conditions you're in plays an important aspect. And we know that from the northern hemispheres, as the sunlight goes down, something called seasonal affective disorder, SAD, becomes more prominent. And that's why UV lamps and melatonin and etc. Are very important to have in terms of surrogate inputs there. So multidimensional, but an important theme, and therefore it was good that you brought it up.
Thank you for that, Doc. And here's an audience question. Your views on FOMO in social media, especially with the millennials and the Generation Zs. Your comments for fear of missing out, and how is that playing havoc on our mental wellness or mental health, as we call it. Over to you.
I think celebrate it. So, I know JOMO has now become a thing, right? The joy of missing out. So let's not even get trapped into FOMO. Let's just embrace the JOMO. Look, social media has got its strengths and weaknesses, and that's an entire different topic and conversation. So let's just each remember, very simply, that whatever people are posting, it's their curated reality for you to enjoy, but it doesn't mean that that's their life 24/7. So don't fear the missing out. Celebrate the fact that you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. And you may choose to post that, you may choose not to post it. It doesn't matter, honestly. It's what you do in your life which brings you joy and happiness, which is the most important tenet.
Thank you, Doc M, for that, because absolutely right. It is the Freudian sort of thought process wherein there are two personalities within one person, and obviously nobody wants to put the reality out there. They want everybody to know that we are happier than happy and we are doing everything, at the optimum level and so on and so forth. So it is absolutely, you're right there, it is curated, it is not the reality. Um, a few more sort of views on how is it going to be your outlook for 2021 in terms of how do we preserve ourselves, how do we maintain our sanity, and how do we make 2021 a year for our hopes, dreams, and aspirations, and leave the 2020 behind. I mean, even though it has been a year full of opportunities, especially, I mean, when it comes to, I can talk about myself. For me, it has not been all about obstacles at all. It has been all 2020 has been all about opportunities. But for quite a few, it has not been like that. So, what are your views on closing the door on 2020 and looking at the new year 2021 with hopes, dreams, and aspirations? How do we do that, and how do we go about doing that as well, Doc M?
People often talk about 2020 as the year of survival or the year to write off in history and forget about. I think that's the wrong way of looking at it, and precisely for what you were describing as well, Preeti. That 2020 has reminded us of so much, right? It's brought families together to spend more time with each other. It's been an amazing digital catalyst for change in this world. It has focused our attention on the big global problems around the climate crisis and how important nature is in our lives. It's reminded us of the importance of our local communities. It's brought us closer to our neighbors, the people that live in our building and our local areas, etc. And it has also reprioritized the competitive advantage of well-being and people understanding the link between their performance and their health and therefore their human edge. So for me, actually, 2020 has been a very powerful year in human history, and we must never forget what has happened. We must only build upon it. So therefore, I don't even contemplate 2020 in terms of resiliency, right? I know I speak a lot in companies and leaders about resiliency of individuals, of teams, of processes, of supply chains, etc. I like to embrace Taleb's work around anti-fragility and utilizing this learning, as you pointed out, for what has been the growth. What can I do from 2020 that allows me to be in 2021 even stronger than where I was in 2020, and not forget about what this was, but embrace the nostalgia and the memories so that we commit ourselves to the strengths that we're going to need to face the opportunities which is going to come. And there are going to be many. We can't kid ourselves. This is not going away. This is just a symptom of a global systemic issue, principally driven through the climate crisis. And we need to be positioned and embrace the fact that we're going to have more shocks to the system to face together.
Thank you so much for that. And as we are about to close our conversations, Doc M, how is it that you will be taking care of your mental wellness or mental health and your health holistically going into the new year and beyond? A couple of tips, tricks, and advice for everybody that is tuned in today. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to be spending a lot of time with my family. I know that seems strange, right? Because all we've done is spend time with our family, but in a much more concerted effort. Christmas is a big deal for us at home. You can see the Santa Claus above me there. There's some ivy there. Our house is already decorated. I've got 2 young kids. So it's automatically a much more magical time of year as we get into the whole Santa Claus and the Christmas Yuletide spirit. We're being very mindful in terms of what we consume this year because going out and doing a lot of exercise and activity is much harder for us. And then lastly, there's going to be some very purposeful digital detox and disconnection as well. So those are the three things that I'm most looking forward to over the next few days and week.
Thank you very much. And that is absolutely spot on because it is always the small steps, the baby steps that actually count and make things larger and larger. So, with that, we are at the end of this conversation. It is our time to say thank you, first of all, to the audience for tuning in. Thank you, Doc, for coming out and talking to me today. Thank you to Echo Events for this live stream. And with this, it is Doc, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year 2021 to you.
Merry Christmas. Absolutely. Merry Christmas, everyone. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. And with that, this is your host, Preeti Chaudhary, signing off with Dr. Marcus Ranney on this edition of LinkedIn Local India Live, Mental Wellness and Holistic Health. Take care, season's greetings, and see you in the new year.